Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us in the second webinar of Digital Marketing Analytics, a short course presented by IT Masters on behalf of Charles Sturt University. My name is Guy Coward and I'll be your MC. Your mentor is Alicia Booth. This webinar will talk about social media, EDM campaign analytics, and AI. Before we begin the usual housekeeping, we encourage the asking of questions and the use of chat during the webinar. And we ask that you direct all questions relevant to course content to the Q&A section, and that you send all administration type questions to the support team in chat. We also encourage you to chat with your fellow students, and you can make that choice by toggling through the drop-down box once you open that chat log and just making sure that all panelists and attendees receive what you're seeing. As I said last week, experienced attendees will be most helpful augmenting the content covered tonight. So it's always a good idea to have that setting. We'll have Q&A session at the end of the webinar, or if a question is particularly relevant, I'll interrupt Alicia whilst we're going through the slides. Leif and Rebecca are around tonight in a support role for IT Masters, so thank you to them. Leif is also responsible for the learn.itmasters.edu.au website, or the Moodle page or the course page, which is where you'll find all the other materials needed for this course. Links to readings, discussion forums, including the glossary thread, which is going gangbusters. So thank you for adding to that. And the participation hurdle quizzes. Sorry for the delay in getting that first quiz to you. It's all up there now if you haven't seen it. Finally, I promised you the lovely Jason Howarth from Charles Sturt University to whip up some excitement about applying for the paid courses that this short course is associated with tonight. He is unavoidably detained, so you'll have to put up with me talking about our partner institution, and I'll do that at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions or you're interested, just hang around for that. Anyway, please welcome Alicia. Thanks for joining us again.
Oh, hi everyone. Hope you're well. I hope your week's going well as well. Thanks very much for that, Guy, and to the support crew. Welcome to week 2, measuring marketing campaigns. We're on Twitter as well at #IGetDigital. Please feel free to make any comments, and obviously you can make some questions up on the chat. I'll hope to get to them either during the slides or after. Okay. So what are we covering this week? We're on week 2. We've finished week 1. Hopefully you enjoyed last week. We had Dominic talking about AdWords and UTM tracking and Google Tag Manager. So we also spoke about Google Analytics. This week we're talking about EDM campaign analytics, CRM, remarketing and retargeting analytics. I'm going to teach you briefly how to install a pixel, Facebook pixel. And I'm just going to talk about customer lifetime value and net promoter score, which are all metrics on customer satisfaction. So I hope you enjoy it. I've added to some of the sources in the presentation. So, if you're interested, you can click on those links and go and do a little bit of extra research. Guy, were we going to do a CSU welcome at this point, or shall I keep going?
Oh, sorry, I thought we were going to do it at the end.
Okay, no problem.
We'll let people hang around and get the content
That's
out
fine.
of the way.
Yep. So we've got an exam at the end of the, on the 5th week. The pass mark is 50. I'm sure you'll all pass. It's nothing to get too, I guess, worried about. All the answers are in the presentations and obviously all the support material. It's not like doing a master's degree. It's actually just to make sure that you're understanding the content. So I will do a bit of a summary and maybe a bit of a preview of some of the questions. They are multiple choice. All right, let's get into it. So I just wanted to kick off just to discuss and define the differences between marketing platforms. I know a couple of you mentioned platforms like Marketo and others, and I wanted to differentiate between what is a CRM platform and what is a marketing platform. So marketing automation, if you see to the right, deals with automated EDMs, for example, automated marketing programs that actually go out and draw leads into the business. They can also enhance existing leads. So when you think about a ban cart, or when you think about a welcome program, they're the sort of automations that can be set up in a platform. So for example, at Best and Less, we use the Amasis automation system, and we send automated emails for birthdays, for anniversaries, and all that sort of stuff. So the other part of it, customer relationship management system, it's actually it's a strategy for managing all of the company's interactions with current and prospective customers. So things like Salesforce are a good example of that. And I've got some examples later on. So just to summarize, a CRM or customer relationship management platform program, it provides a single customer view if it's done well, and it allows business to make offers relevant to the customer. So it may be based on purchase behavior, it may be based on how many times they come to a website, or how many times they might browse. It might be what sort of interests they have with regards to categories that they've searched in. It also is, relating to any queries that they've made through customer service. So that, it basically gives more information to allow a business to service a customer in a more holistic way. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later on the 4th week, but I just wanted to give an overview of that. So I've got an example of automated platforms. So Marketo was mentioned last week. I mentioned HubSpot, and feel free to click on the links that I've provided as sources, or you can Google it as well. Amasis is something that I am a big fan of. I've used all of these. MailChimp is a very good mail program for small businesses, businesses that are just starting out. However, I've used MailChimp for medium-sized businesses as well. So it is pretty robust, but each platform has its pros and cons in terms of metrics, tracking, and automation extensions and APIs. The CRM platforms such as Salesforce, HubSpot CRM, and Dynamic CRM and Act are also other platforms that you can use. Oops, okay. So just wanting to clear that up, and now we're just going to talk about what else can you measure besides the click-through? What else should you be looking at? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So instead of just measuring, how many times someone opens an email, you can actually measure beyond that and measure how a customer behaves from the click-through all the way through to purchase, or all the way through to a website visit. So on the left-hand side, you can see the kind of metrics that you can put into place. So you can measure the number of campaigns you're sending. So each week I measure how many campaigns, how many EDMs that we're sending out each week. I make sure that I'm feeling confident about not churning that database too much, meaning not too many people are sort of getting annoyed with how many emails I'm sending. So I really just try to get on the mark with regards to the return on investment. On the right, we've got things like how much time is a customer staying on the site? Is the website exciting enough? Has it got video? Has it got, how to style a dress with some shoes and a bag? So time on website is a really good metric to give you a gauge of whether customers are engaged. So that engagement factor is measured by time as one metric. When you look at an EDM, the second one, percentage of traffic to the website, you can measure how many people have actually gone to the website based on clicking on an email image, and just work out whether that has actually worked. The conversion rate optimization is of those people that have come to the website, how many people have converted into a lead or have gone to the next step? And conversion rate optimization is something that we'll be talking about in a lot of detail next week when Dilhan joins me. But as you can see, there's a lot of things beyond just, you know, measuring how many times someone comes to your site or how many people are opening up an email. And it's really pertinent to be aware of all the different metrics. Now, you don't need to use all of them, but it's really good to be aware of what is available. And you probably might think, oh yeah, that's something I haven't considered before. And what it does is it gives you the entire picture to a point, depending on the platforms you're using, of how to make better decisions. So I want to start by talking about electronic direct mail, which is the EDMs I mentioned last week. I want to talk about how to segment, how to A/B test, and I want to show you some marketing automations that we currently do at Best and Less and what other retailers do. So what you should be able to do as a marketer, or what you should be aware of if you're not a marketer, is you should be able to assess email marketing by quantifying it before you start. So you need to look at the history of how EDMs have performed. So for example, if your EDM open rate has been on average of, say, 10%, you probably need to do a bit of benchmarking and look at, obviously, reports that for an industry like apparel or fashion, what is the industry average in Australia? And then if it's, say, 19% and you're 10%, you need to work out what sort of things do I need to do to improve that. So am I just sending out an irrelevant message to a whole heap of people? Do I need to look at some of the other behaviours of your database and actually maybe segment to males or females, or maybe segment to both, but only people that are interested in, say, swimwear? So it's all about, you know, looking at what you're currently achieving to what you really want to achieve and setting a strategy, and then actually measuring that and stacking up the performance. So therefore, to determine the success of an email campaign, you actually need to work out what success looks like in the first place. And in order to do that, you need to look at how you're currently performing to how the industry may perform. So in apparel, the average, or the best practice is around 18 to 19% open rate. So, so that's something that I look at constantly. I also look at click-through rate as well. So you can actually calculate your KPIs and create a report, just a very basic one. It doesn't have to be, building Rome in a day. It can just be very simplistic. It can even be on the back of an envelope. But as long as you're aware of what success looks like, so you can celebrate or adjust and improve, that's the main thing that we're trying to achieve. So testing emails is really important. So A/B testing I'm going to talk about in a minute. And you can actually segment and build personas, which I've got in week 4 on how to build a customer profile for online. So metrics explained. I mentioned this last week. Opens are the number of customers opening an email. Click to open, of those customers, who's clicking through to the website link or where you need them to click, what action are they taking. The click-through rate is the number of customers clicking through as simply as a percentage. Click to open rate is the number of people or customers, sorry, clicking through as a percentage. Okay. So when you're looking at a customer life cycle, you're looking to acquire, convert, grow, retain, and win back. And certainly that's what I look at every day. And I use the Amasa system to set up marketing automation programs for me. But it is based on timing. It is based on when customers tend to disengage with the brand. So it is based on data. So I just wanted to give some examples of what acquire means. So refer a friend, so getting your database to refer other friends. And on some of those Groupon sites, you can see that they're trying to, I don't know if you're part of those, but they try and incentivize you to refer a friend. Social sign up is a really good one as well. Email sign up on a website is great. And obviously trying to incentivize customers to purchase once they're on the site. So converting prospect is really important. So shopping cart abandonment is really best practice for running a retail website. So if someone comes and looks on your website, we've got a number of automations that run on a time-based solution where we're trying to get the customer back, we dynamically show what product they've just viewed. So really just using that program to measure the customer abandon rate and trying to convert that abandoned customer into a sale. Growing customers is upselling and cross-selling, and that's usually based on transactional data, which you can get from a POS system. If you've got a data warehouse, we have an API that would feed the transactional data back into the Amasa system, and then we can make some decisions around what to actually dynamically promote to customers in terms of cross-selling. Another example is if you don't have that sort of thing, if a customer signs up, they might say that they've got a preference for baby wear and menswear, and then you see that they buy women's wear, and so you start to form an opinion on what else would they be interested if they've bought women's wear. Maybe they want to receive something along the lines of, I don't know, lingerie or something that's a related, easy to comprehend cross-sell. Retaining customers is things like EDMs and newsletters. Some of them are transactional, in other words, salesy type of emails. Others can be informative, like you might have received, I subscribe to Cotton On and Country Road, and I see a lot of sustainability type of emails, and that's really engaging to me. You might want to see a staff member, a bit of a profile about that person. In B2B, you might want to see a white paper, which is really just a document that is best practice in a certain industry that might be of use to you because you want to generate leads. And the last one is win back. So that's just an automation program to go, okay, well, out of 100,000 customers, 20,000 are inactive. We're going to try and win them back. So when they are inactive for over, say, 6 months, we're going to automatically send them an EDM. So that's about it for that. This is an example of a dashboard. You can see we're measuring opens. I don't know if you can see my cursor on the left-hand side, top left. We can see the percentages of clicks, and this is based on an EDM. You can see the click to open ratio, and you can see the customer lifetime spend, which I've got a little bit of a segment about later on. So let's talk about A/B testing with EDM campaigns. In a nutshell, if you're uncertain and you want to test different components of an EDM, what you do is you set up a control and you set up a variation of that control. So you set up the EDM as a control that you think will do well, but you want to test something else. Like you might want to test a different color EDM or a different image that sits in the EDM. So essentially what you need to do is you send out both EDMs at the same time to 50% of, say, a cohort of 1,000, and you see which ones get the open rate. So it could be an A/B test on a subject line. It could be a click-through rate on the actual EDM once people open. And so what you can do with a system like Amasis and others is you can automatically just send out both EDMs to a control that you actually set up yourself, which I've got another slide on. And whatever the winner is, whatever the highest open rate is, for example, or whatever the highest click-through rate, it will serve that to the rest of the database. Here's an example. This is Campaign Monitor, which is also a great system. So you can see you've got your two, on the left-hand side, your two variations, A and B. And then you can see that you're going to send out both 50-50 to a small number of the database, and it will automatically go to the winning version, to the remainder of the 70%. So just below the AB, you can see I've clicked on open rate. So that's the metric that I'm trying to measure. So the version with the highest open rate will win. And this is what a control and a variation would look like in that case. Test completion will give you a summary. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. Multivariant testing, I've got something on as well later in the presentation. This is an example of an automated EDM program. So you can see, you can actually insert an A/B test within an automated program. And as you can see on the fourth tile, the A/B splitter, that's when you're testing two different scenarios, and then you're measuring that. Some of the retailers that I'm aware of that do this type of thing post-purchase. So on the left there, you can see Showpo. They're actually trying to get an evaluation from the customer based on their experience and how likely are they to, refer a friend or family member. So things like Net Promoter Score are really relevant to some businesses, others not. Automation programs can be set up in various ways. The platform that you use is really important to that. So to go into that in any level of detail requires probably a live session. So I'm happy to demonstrate that another time, but I just wanted to show you what the possibilities were and what that actually looks like from a customer facing point of view. So you can see Adore Beauty there. They're talking directly as a personalized note to their customer. You can see the other one there, Q, they're just sending a tax invoice, which is an auto-generated email. And I believe the bottom part could actually be related to a loyalty program voucher. There's all sorts of things that you can do, but measuring is really important. A buyer win back looks something like this. This is City Beach. You can see there's a number of different variations that are going out to test. Which one is most successful. You can also segment based on customer behaviour and what the data is telling you insofar as whether they're male or female or whether you've done segmentation within that actual buyer win back segment. You can actually A/B test web pages as well. And this is something that we'll go into a deep detail with next week with Dilhan. And I think he's got a live session planned. So what it is essentially is that you're just adjusting, are you serving two different landing pages, for example, and you're just modifying the second version of the same page. So half of your traffic is shown the original version, known as the control, just like an EDM, and the other version is the page variation. So the click-through rate or the clicking of the button could be what your measure as success is, and the metric that you're actually measuring the success of the landing page on. Okay, just taking a breath. Multivariant testing, we mentioned this last week. So what the difference between A/B testing is you're sending out 50-50. Multivariant testing is sending out the lot with variables on each of the elements on the web page all at once. And so the winner of that would be sent out to the entire traffic that comes to the website. So things like call to action buttons, videos, various element changes on each of those 4 variations. You can see the conversion rate of the second one is the winner. And I think this is a really good best practice for website optimization. I've got a lot of slides to get through, but I will provide the presentation and I will answer any questions at the end. I want to quickly talk about the difference between remarketing, retargeting, and first and third party cookies. So what are cookies and what are remarketing pixel tags? Well, basically tags are those small pieces of code on a web page that enable websites to place cookies, and cookies are crumbs. It sounds like the Cookie Monster, but cookies are crumbs left by website visitors if you allow websites to track you. Every visitor has a unique ID and the website activity can be tracked. HTTP cookies are the small bits of data that are stored as text files on a browser. In remarketing, these are used by ad servers and they can access the visitor's ID and save it to use in relevant remarketing lists. So if you go to a web page and then you go on to say 9.com.au, you can actually be served an ad if it's set up the correct way, if you're tracked correctly, something that you've actually visited on that website in a different website. So I've got an example of that. Let me just first talk about cookies in a little bit more detail. The first-party cookies are those created by the site that you've actually visited. The third-party cookies are the most common use of cookies, and that is to track users who click on advertisements and associate them with the referring website. So that example that I provided before, let me just go to that. Actually, I've got that in 3 slides time. I just wanted to put a slide in so maybe you can try this yourself. You can actually find your browser cookies on your PC or your computer of any sort. You can go to privacy and security. In this example, this is from my computer. You can go to the Chrome menu in the top right corner of the browsing settings and select settings. At the bottom of the page, you can show advanced settings, and under the privacy, select content settings as this image shows. And you can actually block or allow cookies. So you can actually control what websites and tracking, you can actually block that behavior yourself. Just jumping onto remarketing and retargeting. Retargeting is mostly about serving ads to potential customers based on cookies. Remarketing is usually based on email data about a customer. The business can serve ads to users who have visited their website or a specific web page, or who have not taken a specific action. I've got an example of that in the next slide. It's really an effective way to target people who have already shown some interest in your business or your brand. So here's a quick slide on that. You can see that this fella here has gone to a website. He's gone to other popular websites and he's been served an ad, and he clicks on the ad, and that's how you measure the click-through rate and hopefully a sale. So I've given an example here from a visual point of view with regards to best and less, and we currently do this. So you can see number 1 is a lovely lady shopping on the Best and Less site. They're looking at dresses because that's what we're promoting, and maybe she's seen a TV ad, or maybe she's got an EDM. And then she goes, oh, look, I'm not really ready yet. I've been distracted. And then later on that night, she might go to the 9MSN to see what the weather's like. And then you can see the remarketing ad there. Then she clicks on the first image on number 3, the blue dress, and she goes to that page, and hopefully she will add that to cart. If she doesn't add it to cart, we know that we can send her an automated abandoned cart EDM when we're trying to get her again. Hopefully that makes sense. Retargeting, an example and a platform we use is called Criteo, and that's basically a pixel-based retargeting advert, and it displays your material to an anonymous site visitor. When they leave your site, the cookie notifies the retargeting platforms to serve a specific ad based on the pages that they visited. So again, we have this running as well. And the way that's measured is a 30-day post-click attribution. So obviously we know that there's 7 to 10 interactions with a customer online. We're just trying to associate a 30-day post-click attribution to make sure that the sale's not attributed to, say, an EDM, for example. Okay, next one. I just want to play this one for you just to show you how to set up a dynamic remarketing campaign. Just bear with me while I switch over. Okay.
Dynamic remarketing shows your previous website visitors ads tailored to them, based on products or services they viewed on your website. In this video, we'll show you how an airline might create a campaign and get started on the feed, tag, and remarketing lists needed for dynamic remarketing. From your signed-in AdWords account, create a display network-only campaign. Select Remarketing, then enter a campaign name, bid strategy, and budget. Select Use Dynamic Ads. Choose a business type. This is a key step. Your business type determines the type of feed, custom parameters, and ad layouts you'll use from here on out. If your business type isn't listed, select Other Custom option. Keep in mind that retail businesses must use a Google Merchant Center account to upload their data feeds. Next, click Set up Remarketing to be guided through a 3-step flow. Step 1. Start thinking about creating a feed of all your products or services. Here's an example of a couple rows from a flights feed. Note that the destination ID and origin ID values in your feed will need to match the values passed through the flight destination ID and flight origin ID custom parameters in your dynamic remarketing tag. Step 2. Add the remarketing tag to your website. Here's an example of custom parameters an airline would use. Values passed through these custom parameters should be dynamically populated with values from your web pages. Step 3. Review your default remarketing lists. Here's what an airline would see. These lists can help you target visitors who may be at different stages, whether that's researching a product or service or ready to buy or commit. After you've gone through each step, your newly created feed will be selected. Enter an ad group name and then click Save and Continue. You've just created a dynamic remarketing campaign. Next,
Okay.
I think I want to do those ads.
Do you?
Sure. I don't know. How do people get that gig? That's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's. I find it fascinating, and it constantly changes. So I give you a job, but you probably need to get Google certified.
It's not going to happen. Sorry.
And that's what I would say to everyone who's here tonight and listening after at a later time. I learnt most of my, I guess, my Google knowledge just from doing the certifications many, many years ago, and it constantly changes. So there's a Google Analytics certification for beginners that I would definitely recommend because it gives you the fundamentals of how to track, how to navigate through the system. And there is an exam at the end of it, but it's a really good foundation that I highly recommend. And then as you progress through your career, if you're looking to change careers or just to understand, there's obviously Google Merchant Center, Google Remarketing, and there's a lot of videos like this that can really help you understand. And there's always the pause button as you're setting it up. Yeah, so I definitely recommend doing that.
And how long would the training go for?
So if you're really, if you're looking at Google Analytics, the beginners course, that is probably a couple of hours worth of different, I guess, what do they call it, workshops that are all on video. And then after each topic, they'll give you a little bit of a quiz like we're doing. And then that sort of helps you along and helps you progress. And then at the end, you get a chance to sit the exam, which is timed. But if you go through it diligently, unlike myself, I just sort of race through it like most people do. It's okay to fail. I like to get 90%, but I think I might have got about 80, 81. First time probably 65, and that was a bit of an issue for me. But I think the pass rate was 60 from memory. They could have changed it. Yeah. But yeah, it's certainly, if you're interested in learning the fundamentals, obviously I can't cover it all off in an hour. And that's why I kind of show these videos. I think, yeah, it's really good just to give it a go.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So you can also do remarketing into, say, a Facebook feed, which is something that I've done for many years. And the main thing is that you've got to set up your daily budget, work out what success looks like for you, work out how much are you willing to pay for a click, or really are you looking for an acquisition, or acquisition being a sales figure. I like performance-based, so I'm always after, I work in retail, so I'm always after the dollar, but we do branding, which is more about impressions, more about reach. So I like to work with brand, remarketing, and I also like to work with performance-based marketing, which is actually based on a feed, which was in the previous video. So a feed, just to explain what that is, that's a product feed that when Google comes to a site, they actually scrape all the active products that have got stock, an image, a description, and it comes into like an Excel spreadsheet, if you like. Not really, but it sort of looks like a massive list of products. Like Best and Less have hundreds of thousands of products, but essentially that feed is used to remarket, so it draws on that. And it's the same with Facebook as well. You can actually add a Google feed to your Facebook Business Manager, and that is used to serve ads in the context of a feed in Facebook or Instagram, for example. So you can, I say, hook up your AdWords. So you need to obviously share AdWords with your Facebook Business Manager and obviously Analytics, and that is a whole nother course, but it is pretty simple. It's all done through an API, and it allows you to serve customers who open an email, for example. So we use the Amasa system to actually go, okay, so this cohort, so 1,000 customers looked at that blue dress. I'm going to serve that blue dress into a Facebook feed. So when that customer goes to the site, goes to Facebook and they're having a bit of a chat, it's just really uncanny that I'm seeing that blue dress again. So we're really trying to chase the conversion of that customer. Hopefully that makes sense. So now I'm going to talk about social analytics. I've got a lot of slides to get through, so I may need to skip through a few, but I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the slides I do miss after the session. So social analytics is really the practice of gathering data from social media websites and analysing that data using social media analytic tools. And it's really not that hard, in my opinion. It's actually quite logical, and it just helps make business decisions, and it improves your ROI. If you're looking at, is this ad really working? Well, what am I expecting to get from it? Am I expecting to get sales, or am I expecting to get engagement? And, you can see, like on some of the tools on Facebook, analytics, you can actually see how you're ranking with competitors with regards to engagement and likes and all that sort of thing. So you can actually really compare and benchmark. You can look in Facebook analytics and see what else your customers are interested in, like what other topics do they like, discounts, do they like, some of our Best and Less customers really are real foodies, and that helps inform, maybe we should write a blog about, doing a meal in 5 minutes for a family of 20. Like it just helps you. It informs the content that may sit on that page. I think, in previous social media webinars that I've participated in, we've spoken about measuring and disseminating content across multiple social media platforms and measuring that. And things like Social Sprout, Hootsuite, and Rival IQ are some of the things that are really useful. Also, if your business is really, in the media a lot, it's really, or you've got a celebrity that is the face of a brand, it's really good to hear what people are talking about. If you've got a TV campaign that you just want to see if it's controversial or not. So You know, like there's a lot of things that you can listen for, and you can actually put key search terms into these social listening platforms, and keep your finger on the pulse. So I've got a few links there in terms of the analytical tools. And previously, Andrew Mashman and I have spoken about a free trial for Hootsuite. So I do encourage you to do a trial. It's really easy to set up, very intuitive. So I wanted to just put a slide in here that can distract marketers with regards to Facebook. And I also wanted to say what I recommend is something that can empower you as a marketer or someone who's interested in marketing and metrics. What are the things that you should be looking for, and what are the things that maybe you should just not really look at? Still keep your eye on it, but yeah, maybe just look at performance rather than people clicking and impressions. I'm not saying not to use those, but I would recommend a return on investment. Having an idea of how much you're prepared to pay per click. So obviously people have budgets. So you'd work back from a budget, you'd be conservative, and then you would test different variations of an ad, for example, and just, you know, be able to adjust according to a budget. So for me, I don't want to pay $1 for a click. If that's what I'm paying, it's not profitable. So it really comes down to what's your margin for a product. Best and less is everyday low price. So I'm not saying that we pay 20 cents for a click. I'm just saying that you just need to be really conscious of your profit and what good looks like. So page likes is really a good measure of engagement. Cost per click, click-through rate, and cost per acquisition or cost per sale are very pertinent and highly recommended. I've worked with a few agencies that, if you look to the right, talk about, I'm not saying all agencies do that, but they really do talk about the brand reach and impressions. And an impression is someone who goes to a website, and you could have an ad on any part of that page, and it actually counts as reach and impressions. So there's no other metric that can define whether someone has really clicked on that link and paying for that click. You're actually paying for somewhere on the page a customer may see, or a lead may see your ad or some native content. So relevancy scores is really something that Google talks about a fair bit, but I think for me, you know, they give you a rating out of 10 of whether the ad is relevant, a quality score and a relevancy score. I would say that's still good to look at, but I would focus on performance. Just quickly talking about Instagram Insights, I know a lot of businesses that just post fantastic pictures on Instagram and use all the hashtags and everything, but it's really important to use the insights so that if you see something that's working really well, you want to try and repeat that. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. If someone likes, like Best and Less, they like really nice clothes on a rack, we definitely find that there's a high engagement. So we get, like, you know, 1,000% more engagement. So it's really important as marketers that you're looking at the insights. I've got a source down here that's really useful. But, you know, like you really can set up your Instagram as a business profile, and that's what you need to do to actually get the insights tab or option. And you can measure the stories themselves. You can measure on the insights, actually provide reports on overall post performance and impressions at a glance view by default. So some of the actions that you can measure is replies, so the number of direct messages sent to your inbox about the story, the number of times someone tapped on the hashtag or the mention, or the location sticker if you've put that on there. Profile visits, the number of people who have visited your profiles from the story. And swipe ups are the number of people who swiped up on your story to follow the call to action. So that obviously the condition there is 10,000 followers or more. So reach and impressions, they can estimate the size of your story's audience. Story features, so location stickers on the right there, you can see some of those. Some location searches will also populate with a story icon. And that will allow users to view recent stories using that location sticker. So pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive. It's good if you actually use it, so you can see, I guess, how it all works. So I've got static images. It's best to actually go through and work through that yourself. Instagram Insights, content, story, and impressions filtered by date. So you can see there the insights and how many people have engaged. I wanted to include this easy calculation. So just how to calculate a success of an Instagram story. So calling it a completion rate. So you can divide the number of people who viewed your last segment in your story by the number of people who viewed your first segment, then multiply that by 100. So an example would be, for a story, if you had 2,400 viewers at the beginning and 1,500 at the end of your story, 1,500 divided by 1,400 times 100 is 62.5 completion rate. So you can combine your Instagram insights with Google Analytics, and you can measure that through by click-through rates. And click-through rate is really the percentage of viewers who followed through on your call to action on Instagram or have clicked or tapped on a link. And in the example I've provided, 100 people viewed your Instagram story and 74 of them swiped up to the corresponding website, and so your click-through rate would be 74%. So it's really, I mean, hopefully everyone looks at that as a simplistic way of measuring Instagram. I think it's really important to set up those KPIs. We do know when something works on Instagram or Facebook. It's really nice to get some figures behind that. Last week I mentioned the UTM tracking codes, and for that Instagram example, when you're looking at Google Analytics, you need to set up tracking codes. So last week I talked about, the source, medium, and campaign are really important to track. So when you're looking in Google Analytics, you know that that Instagram story has driven traffic and click-throughs and potentially sales. So I've got a little bit of a URL builder, but if you check out last week's webinar, you'll be able to see how to construct that. So earlier I spoke about measuring beyond the click-through, and so that's defined as social value in Google Analytics. So you use the Google Analytic goals to assign value to your website landing pages. So here I'm just going to run through how to set that up. So this is the back end of Google Analytics. So as you can see, acquisition, social, and overview, you create a goal there on the right. New goal, create a goal, and then you set up whether you're measuring on revenue, whether you're an inquiry, contact us, you're setting up what the destination type is or making a payment. You set the destination URL, which is really important because social platforms actually have their own tracking. So you'll notice if you've got Business Manager, Facebook Business Manager, you know that they actually track using their own tracking. Okay. And then you just test to see if it's tracking the social value. So as you can see here, how many sessions came through from Instagram, I think it is, and how many social referrals have been generated. Okay, I think maybe we might do a poll at this stage. What do you think? How are we going for time?
Sure. What are you after?
I was thinking maybe to do a poll.
Yeah. Which poll was that?
One that you make up.
Oh, okay.
Which you're really good at. I thought I'd leave it to you this week. What do you think?
Okay.
I can keep going if you like.
No, yeah, okay. Well, I'll chuck one in. I'll ask which social media platform people market to most commonly.
Okay.
Which they most use. All right, I'll do that in a couple slides.
Okay, great. All right, so hopefully, I know that some people like it to be an hour. We're at 8:24, so I'm just sort of letting you know we're recording this session. So if you need to go, completely understand, my apologies. Hopefully it's okay to keep going, everyone. Yep.
I'm certainly happy to.
Okay, Great. So I just want to go through how to install a pixel. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, each topic I talk about, when you're looking at web analytics as a master's degree course, this is just a bit of a preview. Like I would need to teach you through a textbook, and I'd need to teach you through a live session, and potentially that may be a project or an assignment, so that the actual longer course will you'll walk away after doing that course with the confidence of actually installing a pixel in your workplace, in terms of like on a website. So I just want to sort of give you the basics of how to do it, and I know that some of you, most of you, probably won't fully understand it because it deals with code and all the rest of it, but I just want you to get a good understanding of the 3 different options that you can use, and at the very least you can go up to your developer or your digital marketing guru and say, could you please install this Facebook pixel using Google Tag Manager? And you sound like you know what you're doing, so if anything you can walk away with that. So let me first explain what a pixel is. It's a piece of code that's placed on your website, and it collects data and helps you track conversions. You know, we were talking earlier about Facebook ads. It actually helps track the success of those ads, or maybe the failure of those ads, but it gives you an informed metric which you can choose to continue and scale or actually close down. And this is where we talk about test and learn with in the online space, and that the fail forward that some of you have heard my other webinars, where sometimes it's good just to go, right, I'm just going to do this, I've just got a hunch. But sometimes hunches are wrong and sometimes you fail. But the main thing is that if you've got a pixel, you can actually measure that super duper quick. And with your, you can build targeted audiences for your future ads, as in a pool, and remarket to those who have already taken some sort of action on your website. So what does it track? It tracks things like view content, searches, add to cart, add to wish list, initiate checkout, add payment info, make a purchase, a lead, or complete a registration, or download an article, go to a landing page or a product page. There's so much that it can track. It is inserted into all pages of a website in the header, and there's 3 ways. So to a lot of you, this will look like gobbledygoo, as Guy has mentioned earlier on in our earlier conversation before we started. But essentially, you can install it through the header. And if there's any developers out there, they will definitely understand what this is. But essentially you're inserting that, and it's inserted by a developer. There are plugins that insert to header and footers, which I've got a link to within the presentation in the introduction. So you can see the plugin has actually inserted this into a website. And the third part is, the third option is Google Tag Manager, which is my favorite, which is basically using Google to actually insert that into the website pages. But you need to publish and preview and check that that's working. So this is a Facebook Business Manager page, and I'm actually just confirming here that it's tracking page view, add to cart, purchases, and obviously that's a bit of an issue, that one. That's an old slide. But essentially you just need to make sure that it's active and that it's tracking correctly. But in the longer course, this will be a topic on its own, and it'll be diving in deep. So yeah. I wanted to also show you how you can actually go into work tomorrow and see if they have a Facebook pixel. If you use Chrome, you can actually go to the Chrome store and download the Facebook Pixel Helper, which you can see here on the right. Once you install that and go to a website, to your work website, you can actually see whether a Facebook pixel is installed and what it's actually tracking. So it's really just a bit of a cheat in terms of seeing if the pixel's working. And you can actually, if it's linked up to analytics, you can actually view those analytics, Google Analytics.
What do you reckon? Should we see if people are using it now?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Do you use Pixel on your website?
Some people may be unsure because they may not be aware of that sort of thing, but I'm sure people will go into work tomorrow or in the next few days and ask.
We'll ask the poll next week too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so about 10 people or 10% currently saying yes, and up to 50% saying no. So
yeah. Well, I mean, go to the Chrome store, Google Chrome store, and then search for Pixel Helper and say, yes, I want to download it. And then, yeah, then you can do that.
Beauty. I'll just share the results briefly.
Yep, sure.
There we go. 11% yes, 48% no, 40% unsure, and I'm sure that will change tomorrow.
Yes. And I'd be interested to know on the forum who has got into work tomorrow to find out.
Beauty.
All right, so we're good to move on?
Yep, stop sharing now, I think.
Great. Just wanting to know as well, does anyone know about Net Promoter Score? Sorry, just doing a bit of a double quiz poll.
Yep, got a few yeses in the chats.
Yep.
A couple of no's, mostly yeses.
Okay.
A few not yets.
Okay, about to find out, so hopefully that'll change. So your Net Promoter Score is really a bit of a metric that measures the customer's health, the customer's loyalty, and it's a clear metric on how a business is doing from a customer point of view. So a business may, well, businesses in the past, say 20 years ago, were all about, you know, we're happy with what we're doing, you know, everything's great. But these days it's more a customer-led experience, and best practice is for business to ask customers how they would rate them. Would they promote the business? Or would they not promote the business, other things that they're not getting right? So I showed a SHOPO Net Promoter Score EDM that's sent to, I believe, post-purchase. So once someone's finished the purchase process and they're actually asking that question. So it's a really good way to ascertain whether someone's happy or not, and actually have that as a key metric. So definitely would endorse this process in this day and age. It's really important. I've got a bit of a link there as well that you can look at. So basically, customer satisfaction surveys is one way to ascertain. So things like SurveyMonkey can be sent out to a great number of customers on a database as a bi-yearly or annual kind of process. But basically, to define it, it's basically the percentage of customers who answered 9 or 10 on the questionnaire, and they're your promoters. And it actually calculates the percentage of customers who answered 0 to 6 on your questionnaire. They're defined as detractors. And essentially, you subtract the percentage of detractors from the promoters, and there you have your Net Promoter Score. So I'm not too sure if any of you out there are aware if your business is doing this sort of thing, but certainly there's all sorts of ways that you can actually start that, as simple as a survey with regards to their customer experience, specifically on a website. So if you work in a business where it's a online only business, this is some of the cool things that you can do. There's other things as well that you can measure and track. I've got a video here which you can watch at a later time, but it actually is a very simple way of looking at explaining what I've just mentioned. So I think it'd be better if we move on.
Got an excellent question in the chat there. What's a good response rate to reviews? It
depends. Like I definitely think you need to be in the positive, and I've worked with businesses that will focus on the neutrals to increase to promoters as a strategy. So if I go back to this slide, When I've worked at Hanrob Pet Hotels, I consulted to them probably 3 or 4 years ago. We used to incentivize customers to, give some feedback and actually say we're really interested in getting them to be promoters, and that would increase the overall net promoter score. So there's all different types of strategies. I know I'm not giving an answer. It actually depends on the industry. And obviously for privacy reasons, I can't give the apparel industry. But let me just say no one's ever, 100%. Yeah, there's always room for improvement. And I guess my counter answer is really to define what it is right now and improve on it.
Yeah, right.
So when you look at just a bit of a tangent, when I've worked at Deals Direct and we went for initial public offering, Net Promoter Score was really part of the proposition because we had a very good promoter score. So when you're looking at selling a business, having customers really satisfied with the service is definitely better than trying to sell a business where the customer, as measured by Net Promoter Score, is not very good. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that whatever your Net Promoter Score is, there's always room for improvement. And certainly most businesses I work with, that is definitely on the strategic plans. Oh, sorry, I've got a calculator here that you feel free to use and play with. The next one is calculating the customer lifetime value. I'm nearly finished the presentation, so that's good news. I'm not too far over, I don't think. I think I'm only 7 minutes. So customer lifetime value is really all about the cost of acquiring customer and the profit that the customer has over a period of time. And it's per year or per 2 years, whatever that variable is. The retention rate is, a customer stays and purchases with you for that period of time. And then the churn rate is as a consequence of your retention rate. So really, those two should add up to 100. And the calculation is, I've actually got it here. If I can just switch my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep. So we can see an Excel spreadsheet? No?
Yeah.
You can? Okay, perfect. So here I've just made one up today. So the highlighted in yellow is fixed, as in you populate those with figures provided by the business. So if you acquire if you basically spend $1 million and you acquire X amount of customers, there's a cost associated with that. So just dividing, obviously the spend divided by the cost of the number of customers. When you look at the profitability of those customers over, say, a year, I've got per annum there. That's how much you make out of them per year. So of those customers, how many will stay? I've got 80% will stay. And I'll just show you the calculation of just 1 minus the 80 will give you the 20. And then you can calculate the average lifetime in years by simply 1 minus your churn rate. Okay. So once you've got those figures in there, the average lifetime value is, you can see here. So you've got number of years times average costs, average profit, less the cost. So that's how you work that out. So I'm going to provide this tool. It's a very simplistic one. There is a longer calculation, which I've got in the presentation as well. Let me just switch back to my other screen, which is here. There's a video there that I've provided. This is a longer one, which basically factors in your retention rate, any discounts that are applied during that year, and yeah, like if you watch the video, it makes it really clear. Again, this will be another topic that sits within the analytics longer course. So feel free to have a look at the video. I just wanted to add in other ways that you can measure the success of customer satisfaction. So this one here is Google reviews, essentially what customers do and what businesses can't control is, you know, customers making reviews of their store experience after they've attended a store. This one here is an example of Best and Less, where we're in the I think it's the, can't remember which store that was, but one of the stores that Stephen Smith has gone through. I think it's ironic that his last name is Smith for privacy reasons. He's actually given a review, and that is actually fed back to the store manager and the regional manager in that area. So it's really good to look out for that. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of that sort of availability and certainly high usage by customers. Another one that is really ranked quite high in terms of a domain ranking is product review. I don't know if you've heard about Choice Magazine, but it kind of ranks in the same way, but for online. So yeah, that's another one to look out for as well. I wanted to include this as well. So this is another way where you can actually ask customers if they're happy with their experience from once they've exited a website or once they've made a purchase. So I shopped on appliances online. I bought my mum a washing machine. It was such a great experience. And what I got at the end was this type of, you can customize this. I actually was like so excited and so engaged that I was so happy to give this review. So yeah, like it's just, if you're hitting customers at the right time and you've got the data and the insights, it can be a really powerful tool. I won't go through campaign orchestration and customer data. I do want to wrap up, but feel free to watch this video if you've got some time. It's really about looking at the single customer data set rather than pushing campaigns to pushing data to a segment. It actually gives a more holistic view using data and actually sending personalized, real-time, relevant customer experiences with one set of data. So using a centralized data system to orchestrate your campaigns. And that alone could be a topic in itself, but I've put it in there. I was going to hide it, but because I've run out of time, feel free to take a look at it. And there's a few slides about that as well. So that's about it. I know we've got some questions, but I just wanted to say thanks for joining me. Next week is a pretty good course. I'm really excited about bringing a really heavyweight systems architect on board, and actually he's going to do a lot of live sessions. That's Dylan. He's worked for me at Lowe's and also at freshflowers.com. We built that website together. He's now working in Australia. He's from Sri Lanka. He is an absolute delight to work with and very technical, but he also speaks very well in layman's terms. So don't be put off by the technicality of what he'll be talking about, because he has broken it down in simplistic forms. So we're talking about web analytics and customer experience, multivariant testing on landing pages, conversion rate optimization, content management systems and dynamic page tracking and where that can become a bit tricky, and a few other interesting topics. Hopefully we'll get this quiz up in the next sort of 48 hours, but I just would like to know, how does your business company measure customer experience and satisfaction, which kind of talks to the Net Promoter Score. I'd be interested to know if you do that, or if you do SurveyMonkey, or if you're interested in doing something like that. I can prepare a how-to document on how to do that if that's useful for people. But yeah, I'll be really keen to know what your business does. And there we go.
Yeah, beauty. Thank you. Just on the quizzes, this is the first short course we've done in quite a while where we haven't just had multiple choice answers. So it's just taking us a little bit longer to review all of the answers and sort of work through that. We really want to get a really good idea of what you all think, and then we'll try and feed that back into the course as it sort of finishes off. So yeah, the more detail you can chuck in, the better. It'll just take us a bit of time to work through. Alicia,
Yes.
there's about 11 questions, and I do need to get through this Charles Sturt University Prezzo. So I reckon maybe if I start whipping through that now, I'll pinch the screen off you. And if you could maybe go through and type any answers to the questions that you think you can type them to, and if there's anyone you want to speak to, we'll leave them for after that.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be good to maybe have sort of 5 out of those 11, and then I can address the others.
Yeah, sweet.
Something like that.
Yeah, cool. All right. Do you want to do that now?
Well, I'm happy to answer the questions if everyone's keen to get going. If you like.
Let's just do that. Kirsten asked an interesting question. Should you incentivize NPS surveys, or would this skew the data?
Very good question. I actually think it would skew the data, but and it does skew the data. Yeah, look, I think when I look back, I probably wouldn't do that again. That was something that was in place, and I did feel a bit uncomfortable about it. So I definitely would recommend not doing that. I would actually just go to the root cause, cause and effect. So looking at actually how, training the customer service team or providing a better website experience, and, an in-store experience as well. So, yeah, so my answer is I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Marcus was asking during the bit where you were talking about the tool you were showing on Excel, how best to calculate things like the acquisition cost and the cost of advertising and those sorts of metrics.
Yeah, so I do have a spreadsheet that I can share in the forum that I use for forecasting. Very good question. I believe in week 4 I'm going to go through a live session on how to do that. There's all different ways. Like, I like to keep it really simple. If you know how to do basic formulas on Excel, if I had that spreadsheet handy, I could actually show that now. But what about if I show that next week? Would that be good?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, because there's different ways. It'd take me maybe 10 minutes to explain it and show it, because showing it makes it easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Madison asks, when you do A/B testing, how long should you test for? Is it?
Oh, you can set the timer depending on the system that you're using, but currently where I work, we hit send and we let the system do it for us. So it's, as soon as people start opening it, once we hit our cohort of 1,000 people have opened it, however long that takes. So it just depends on the business itself and how customers behave.
Right.
Yeah, so you would look at.
It depends on the strategy, what number it needs to be accurate.
Well, yeah. So if you've got 1,000 people on your database, it'd probably take a minute. But if you've got 2 million people on your database, and you're testing 1,000 or 2,000 people, it'd take a lot longer.
9 o'clock. So I reckon I might pinch the screen and just rush through this bit about Charles Sturt. For those of you that are interested in, I suppose, exploring your options about studying this in a postgraduate setting. So I suppose the first question is, can you see a slideshow?
Yes.
Let's see whether I can actually do the things that I talk about other people doing all the time. So yes, apologies from Jason Howarth and to Jason Howarth, because I'm about to butcher his presentation. I'm here to talk about, I guess, the benefits of studying with Charles Sturt and who Charles Sturt are briefly, and particularly talk about, I suppose, the digital marketing side of things, because, I think it's quite relevant tonight and to this course. Charles Sturt is a leading regional and online and distance education university and you can see a bunch of campuses around there, mostly in regional New South Wales, Bathurst, Wagga Wagga, Canberra, I think Port Macquarie as well, and they've also got study centres in major cities. But we focus mostly, or certainly at IT Masters, on online study. And there was an interesting stat going around the other day that for the first year, online postgraduate study has outpaced on-campus postgraduate study with respect to coursework postgraduate. So it sort of seems to be the way of the future, and yeah, we like to think we do it pretty well. Let's see if I can use the slides. So I suppose it's interesting to talk about, you know, whether you actually are eligible for study. Usually for postgrad study, it's not necessary that you have university experience, history. You can get in with your professional IT or in this case marketing experience. Typically about 2 years experience is enough, and that way we can start people on the graduate certificate pathway, which is the first few subjects of the masters. And of course, if you have a bachelor's degree or indeed postgraduate study before, have finished postgraduate study before, you can just jump straight into that. I do eligibility assessments, so if you are keen, visit those links and we can have a look at what your options are, and I'll talk more about that soon. So that's just a brief explanation of how the graduate certificate works. If you haven't studied at university before but have a bit of experience, you get in and you do subjects that we sort of think are more appropriate for the first few subjects, and we'll just sort of keep the capstone subjects behind, and so when you articulate up to the masters, you can then choose the more advanced ones and build on the foundation that the grad cert provides. And there's the hierarchy. I think that's fairly common knowledge. Jason and Martin Hale are always very excited about how wonderful Charles Sturt is doing in distance education in terms of both applications and enjoyment, and particularly in IT and postgrad domestic. We think that something that's really exciting about the Master of Applied Digital Marketing is it sort of bridges the gap between a marketing course and an IT course, because the digital marketing is so ubiquitous that really I think you'd be mad not to at least integrate the practices into your business. And the question has to be sort of, all right, well, should we start studying it? And if that is you, well, yeah, we certainly think that there's a lot of synergies between, you know, what we've traditionally done, which is IT courses based on, you know, networking or programming or development, and sort of branching out into digital marketing because it's just so relevant. So that's all fine. If you want to get involved, you can, you know, have a look at it, and I'll give you all sorts of information. There's 6 intakes per year, so it's about finding the right time for you. Pretty standard 10 hours of study per week per subject. But the important thing is, I think, to say, you know, the key to a successful course of study is communication and flexibility. If you get on the front foot and say, this is me, this is what my other commitments are, this is how I study, this is what I'm doing outside of study, then we're far better able to sort of say, all right, well, that's great. Let's tailor a plan. Let's tailor some subject plan and study plans for you that are congruent with your objectives and workloads outside of, you know, study. Because most of the people that we teach are working full time in the industry that they're studying. There's also ways to mitigate the time and cost associated with studying with recognition of prior learning. So credits available for previous postgrad study, which I think is particularly relevant in the applied digital marketing, because I'm sure a lot of you would already have studied marketing before. It's about upgrading your skills so that you sort of maintain relevancy and best practice in the digital age. So there's quite often, if you're talking about marketing theory, some of that would be covered in the CSU course, and there's no point making you learn it twice. Alicia was talking about Google certification, for example. Some industry certification can be recognised if it is of a, I guess, if it's of requisite level of competency necessary, and also sort of a similar sort of effort required as the subject. There's like something like 170 contact hours for a subject, so we say that we probably would want sort of 5 days into coursework necessary before you take an exam, for example, and then you can get that certification assessed for credit towards your postgrad degree. It says here we do not give credit for work experience, but in some cases we can. So you'll just have to have a crack, I reckon. It's basically, we can, if you get assessed by a third party that does these sorts of assessments and sort of gives you an accreditation as working at a particular level, after 5 years of experience, and you're doing particular roles, then we can, if they certify you, then we can say, all right, well, we recognize that certification. So yeah, that's all part of an application process, and we can do an assessment before you apply if you complete the eligibility form, which will pep you the cost. I'll pep you with the links for in the slides. So yeah, cost $32.50 per subject, and for international students, $33.50. And textbooks are no longer included. This is an old slide deck, it would appear. But I thought I'd quickly show you the structure of the course. So hopefully you can now see Charles Sturt University course structure. Can you see that, Alicia?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so I reckon for so many people listening tonight, it sounds like there's a fair bit of, a fair proportion of people already working in marketing or doing some sort of content or strategy job. So I think I'd focus personally on the graduate certificate as opposed to the full master's, because there may only be specific gaps that you need to fill. So we've got a core subject here of digital and social media marketing. And then you can sort of say, all right, well, I want to know really about just social in particular, or I just want to learn about big data. And you can sort of just pick 2 or 3 subjects. And if you have 2 or 3 gaps in knowledge that you really want to fill, you can all work towards, the 4th subject with short course credit, or getting credit for your previous postgrad study, or industry certification if you have any. So it's a really, I think, a realistic target. It's just retooling just for the next job, or to improve the business practice of where you're currently working, and you don't have to commit to the full masters. Of course, you're welcome to do it, and I think it's its own reward, and everyone should be in the school all the time and it should be free and all that sort of malarkey. But like if you're already in the industry, I think the grad cert is an excellent option. So I'll just go back to my thingamajig. Sorry for using the old phrase again, Alicia.
No problem.
So you should be able to see the slideshow again.
So Guy, the course that I've put together for web analytics, that's one of the only courses in Australia offered, I believe, as a degree course.
Fantastic.
I believe so. I could be talking out of school, but I think it's offered for the first time in March 2020 as part of the applied digital marketing. So in this day and age, with data being so pertinent to marketing, and I think it's like, I'm not trying to give myself a good rap or anything like that, but I just think...
well, I'll do it for you. I think that if there's any question as to why you would do a postgrad study in digital marketing with IT Masters and Charles Sturt University, you have your answer in this very short course. It's finding people that are very good at what they do in the industry and are working, full-time jobs and taking time out of their busy schedule to teach people. I think that's bloody wonderful. And
Well, thank you.
And clearly there's a level of expertise there that, you know, everyone can borrow from. And even if you are very experienced yourself, you know, the beauty of it is you can just talk about the ideas and thrash out, you know, what's best, why, and when. And I think, you know,
I think I agree, not with you giving me a rap or anything, but just really agree with when I look at candidates to work in my team, the one thing I'm looking for is some sort of data analytics, Google certification, an analytical brain, because that, you know, I work in online. I've got a Charles Sturt master's degree in marketing, and I did that. I think I finished my course in 2014. I had a child. There was a lot going on. It was really great to do the online by distance master's degree course. But, you know, all the universities back then didn't really offer like a web analytics course. And so that's why I took part in all of this, because I want to try and explain the practical application of in real life examples of how the theory is applied and how it solves marketing problems. So doing a 1 hour course gives you a bit of a precursor, or I kind of understand that now. The longer course will provide much more context and plenty of live sessions and lots of tools. Like earlier, I think someone mentioned around, do you have an Excel spreadsheet to calculate all the different metrics? And so the course will definitely be able to provide all those sorts of things, and I certainly will be able to go through it next week. But yeah, I'm really passionate about giving back and letting people know that if you're not analytical, you are. It's just that your bias might be to look at something a certain way. It's all about empowering yourself by knowing overall about web analytics and actually going, that's something I'm really interested in learning more about, so I can answer those questions around what does success look like, what platform should I buy, what sort of direction should I go in. So there you go. That's me trying to wrap it up too. But yeah, hopefully I'm not taking up too much time.
No, I always think with free content, you know, the more the better. So, and I think thank you. I think we'll just leave that as the final word. Future-proof with Alicia Booth, and off we go.
Well, thanks everyone. Hopefully I'll see you all next week.